Welcome to Look to the Moon podcast, bringing together two friends with stories that need sharing. Join us, Jodie and Nicole, as we navigate life after loss, discussing topics around birth, trauma and baby loss, and providing a safe space for others to share their stories.
Tangent there. So back to little Lochlan and you being
That's all right.
bedside, and so he was doing really well initially. Just excuse me, I open my can of Coke because it's kind of
It's all right. Because they say
She's
that
cracking a beer. She's cracking a
hours
beer.
it's me.
Joking. Sorry, Cara.
They say that the first 72 hours are the most crucial.
Yeah.
And in Lochlan's case, he was doing really, really well. Like they had to change his blood pressure medication a little bit, and like his oxygen and stuff was going up and down. So they just went with that. But he was actually doing a lot better than I think the nurses and the doctors and everything were expecting. They had him on precautionary antibiotics as well as all the other medication they had him on, just to cover in case there was something there. And then I think day 5, they took him off the antibiotics because his infection markers were fine. He was doing really, really well. And so they would phone us and us to like let us know what they've done and that we've had to change his meds and stuff. And we were going in because we only lived about 20-minute drive. So like we'd be up to see him in the mornings and we'd kind of like basically just come and go throughout the day. And I remember they rang us over the week. I think it was the weekend of Mother's Day last year. They'd rang us just to say they had to give him a blood transfusion. She said, but it's normal. She said, obviously in premature babies, things like this is needed. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But we went in, I think it was like early hours in the morning, but we went in because the consultant wanted to speak to us. And so that was fine. Then we went back home, and then Mother's Day morning, went in to see him, and he was fine. Went back again at lunchtime, he was okay. And then we were going back up in the evening, and they'd rang us when we were on our way there. And one of the nurses that was looking after him that day, she said, just to let you know, we're just changing his breathing tube in case you come in and you wonder what's going on. Obviously, they had like the boards up around him and stuff for privacy. I was like, okay. I said, well, we're on our way in now anyway, so that's fine. Like, we'll see you soon. And when we actually got there, they had other parents standing outside of the room that Lochlan was in. And as we looked in, we could see all the boards up around him. And he was actually having seizures, which within 20 minutes of us speaking to the lady and then getting there, he's having full-blown seizures. And basically they were treating him again. So they took him off the antibiotics on day 5, and then day 7 they'd put him back on antibiotics. And he's had this infection. They didn't know what had basically caused it. But it led to bleeds on the brain, which was leading to him to have these seizures. And I remember walking up to the doors and I could see that it was him, and I couldn't go in there. And I just remember breaking down. One of the consultants basically come in to see us, and we were sat in a different room. She said, like, just sit in there for a bit, and then when you're ready, come back in, and then we'll basically talk about what's happening. And so we went back in. They were having to put so we'd had a blood transfusion, but they were also having to put platelets in as well. So he'd had a cannula in his hand where they were doing the blood transfusion. And then they were trying to put another cannula in his other hand. for them to be able to give him some anti-seizure medication. But where he was having seizures, so I remember the doctor being on one side, I was holding one of Lochlan's hands, and they had like that blue paper over him, obviously when just to keep him like clean. And I remember holding his little hand, and the doctor couldn't get another cannula into him. So they wanted to get the blood transfusion and the platelets finished first before putting in the anti-seizure medication, which felt like it was just going on forever. And then I remember the consultant coming up to us and wanted to sit us down and basically say what was happening. And then I was still in the bubble of like, he's going to be fine. They're going to give him these antibiotics, to give him the blood transfusion, and he's going to be fine. Like he's a little miracle so far, and that's going to continue. And then I remember the consultant sitting us down, and she said, there's basically nothing else that they could do, and asked us if we wanted to like get family in to come and see him. They put us in they said we could put you in like a private room. So I remember phoning my mum and my nan and basically just screaming down the phone at them, and I couldn't get the words out properly to say that he's not gonna make it. And sorry, it's just
don't apologise. Take your time.
It's just the worst thing ever. Like nobody wants to. It's bad enough having to see your baby. Kind of have to go through everything with all the wires in them and the medication and stuff in the machines. But like even though they're telling you that it's it's like there's nothing else they can do, you still cling on. Like you're still thinking that, well, he's got this far, he's going to be fine. And it wasn't until they were asking us if we were like religious and stuff, and I said, well, yeah, like Catholic. And it wasn't until the priest come in, and then that was it. Then I was just I just knew then, like the priest came in and they christened him for us, and yeah, it was just the worst, because you really want them to be able to pull through, and you know that it's not going to be easy when they come out, like when they would eventually come out of hospital, you know it's not going to be easy. But I think there's still a part of us that will think that that's not going to happen, like they're going to be okay. And like the priest was there, and my mum and my nan and my granddad, and I can't, I hate seeing other people upset. And I remember thinking to myself, I need to like compose myself. I need to, like, Mikey's mum came, and I remember like my mum and my nan and my granddad were there, and I was thinking to myself, I don't want them to see me upset. And literally, as soon as like my mum and my nan and my granddad walked in, that was it. I just broke down again. It's just horrible. Like you don't know what to do. So the priest had been, and then they basically said to us that they would get everything set up in the room, and then we could have as many of our family as we wanted to come in. And my mum's youngest brother, I've got a really close relationship with him, and his two kids, I've basically always looked after them, like done stuff with them on the weekends as they were growing up, and I'm really really close with them as well. And they were both really excited when we said about Lochlan. And then my uncle said, like, could he come in with Neve, which is my little cousin? And I said, yeah, that's fine. And I remember at this point, that was Sunday, so Mother's Day was on the Sunday, and I think it was like Monday morning they'd put him on me. So they took him out, they'd set us all up in the room, they took him out, and I remember them putting him on my chest. And I just felt they're so tiny and so fragile. I didn't want to move him in the wrong way. I didn't want to knock one of his wires or his tube or anything. And I remember I had like a little sports vest top on underneath my top. And they put him on me, and I remember just putting his little feet in my vest top just so he would stay where he was. And I did not move. So I think that was like 10 o'clock Monday. And we'd had like family coming in and stuff. And my uncle came in with my little cousin, and I did not move out of that chair. And I remember they kept saying to us, I had a bereavement midwife, and she'd come in that day, and all she wanted to talk about was funeral options and what we do. And I remember saying to her, I said, he's still here, so I don't want to talk about none of that. That's not, I want to make the most of my time with my son. I don't want to talk about funerals. Anyway, she kind of went off into some other stuff. And throughout that day, obviously, they were still coming in, doing observations, checking on Lochlan. And they kept asking me about his medication. Well, you need to tell us when you want us to stop his medication. And I remember thinking, how can you put that on me? Like, you're the medical professional. You should be like at least maybe advising us or something, because I don't know when to stop his medication that he's on. At this point, he was on. They'd managed to get the anti seizure medication into him. So he was on that, and he was on his blood pressure medication and morphine, and obviously his breathing tube was still helping him breathe. And I knew that when they start stopping the medication, then that is it. There is no going back. And they stopped his seizure medication first, and then they would come back in. And I remember for somebody so tiny, he had such big hands, really big, strong hands. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah.
His little hand and footprint. He had really strong hands and strong arms for somebody so tiny. And when he was having seizures, I remember his little arms were like moving, but it's just all these little details that you try and take everything in. And then obviously where they'd stopped the seizure medication, his seizures were starting again, not as bad as they were when we first got there, but you could just feel him. And I remember just trying to hold him and just like, I don't even know, not squish, like not squeeze him, but just hold him. Yeah, so it wasn't tried. I didn't want because I just thought his arms must be hurting him so much, where it was mainly like upper body movements that he was having. And then we had some really, really amazing nurses that were with us. So they came and did the foot and handprints with us that day. And the clay print as well. We had the clay prints of his feet and his hand. I was so worried about the clay because when they were doing it, and because it's in like one of those photo frames, started to crack. So we did have it up on display, but I've got his little memory box in front of me, and I've got everything. I've got his that's in there because I don't want it to crack even more. Yeah. So that's in there. But then so we did his prints. They did the little inkless prints as well. And then the doctor come back in again, and she said, like, I think it's time to like stop some of his other meds. And I think this was like 10 o'clock at night, I think, at this point. So they stopped his blood pressure medication. So at this point, it was just the morphine that he was on and his breathing tube that he had. And I just didn't want to say, yeah. I didn't want to be the person to go, okay, yeah, you can stop this medication now. So I was trying to kind of not dismiss them, but just say to them, no, not now. Like it's not, we're not ready. We haven't had enough time with him. We really haven't. But then there was another part of me that was thinking, was he in any pain? Like I don't want to prolong his pain if he's in pain. So one of them come back in and basically said, well, the bleeds on his brain is basically kind of like it'll be like a little headache feeling. And I just thought, I don't deal with headaches well, so I can't expect him to like manage them either. So so the blood pressure medication was stopped, and they were coming in still quite regularly to do his checks. And I remember it must have been about 4 or 5 in the morning, and I've still not moved. I'm still in the seat. I've still got like his breathing tube is around me, going in, like into his mouth, and all the machines are there in front of me. And the doctor, one of them, come back in again, and she said, should I think we should start thinking about taking his breathing tube out? And I was like, I can't do that, because then I know what's going to happen. So she was like, well, I'll give you some more time. And then it must have been about 6 o'clock she came back in, and she basically asked if we were ready. And I just couldn't say nothing. How can you ever be ready to do that? Um, so yeah, they came in, and I remember they took they had like his little mask on the sides, and they took his tube out, and it was the first time that we'd seen his face without the mask on, without the tubes. And I just remember looking at him, and he's just so beautiful, and just like we were saying earlier on, so perfectly formed. Like I was obsessed with his nose. And me and my partner have got this running joke where we'll go boop. And I remember Mikey going to me, he was like, you cannot bop him on the nose. And I said, I don't want to bop him on the nose. I said, I just want to give him a little, like, just want to touch his little nose. And he was like the cutest. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I can find. I got where's photo beside my bed. You can't really see it, but that was like, oh, it's blurred. If you can see,
Yeah.
but like,
Bless him.
he was just, I got so many photos of him, but a lot of them obviously where he had the tubes in. So yeah, they took the tube out, and I just remember just staring at him and just looking at him, and I was so scared that he'd be struggling, and of if he was going to be. I didn't. The one thing I didn't want to hear was the noises of him struggling, and I didn't. Like it was just like he was just cuddled into me peacefully, and they kept coming back in. And I remember that she'd come in and she'd have like the stethoscope, and she'd listen into his chest. And I remember like holding on to Mikey, and I remember saying, is he still with us? And she was like, yeah, he's still there. And I think this was 7 o'clock in the morning. So he'd done an hour. And so they'd basically, she said, all right, we'll check back in again. Um, and he was just pretty much, he was just like, I remember just having his little head there, and he was just on me, and he was just cuddled into me. And I just didn't want to, like, I think in that moment, I was trying to picture us just somewhere else, and that this wasn't happening, and he's there and he's fine, and like we're just somewhere else. It's just early hours of the morning, and I'm just taking him all in. And I remember she came back in then at half 7, that morning. And I remember listening, and I remember the look on her face. And she didn't even have to say anything. And I just looked at her, and I was like, is he gone? And she just like nodded. And it just remember looking at Mikey, and I just couldn't believe it. And it was just we we were just so hopeful um that he was just going to be one of those miracle stories that you hear. And he started off so well, and I think we just got we were too comfortable with how well he was doing. um and even though he was there, we did think that we wouldn't be able to take him home. It's just the literally it's just the worst thing to ever happen, I think, to anyone. And you really don't think it's ever going to be you until you're in that position. um but even then, like, even in that last minute, he just looked like he was sleeping. Like, he didn't look like he was in pain. He was just peaceful. And I remember the obviously they do changeover about 8 o'clock, so we had a different nurse that come in. And she come in and she said it's been really strange seeing Lochlan's name, because she had twins a couple of years before, and she had a girl and a boy, and her boy was called Lochlan, but her daughter was in NICU. Um, so she literally, bless her, she just did everything she could for us that day. Um, and it was just really, really strange, because I remember they were trying to do all this stuff with us, and it was just it, like you said earlier on, you're not really there. You're kind of you're looking in at what's happening, but you still don't register that it's you.
Yeah.
And so he was 9 days old, so it's so similar to Luna, because I think Nicole said Luna was 8 days old and Lochlan was 9 days old.
Yeah.
um and so much happens within that short space of time. And I just remember they basically said, oh, we'll give you some time. And I remember we bathed him, and we did all that, and they were trying to find outfits, and every outfit in the hospital was so big, even the like preemie clothes. So then remember, we've got some of the stuff in his memory box, actually, his little like vest tops. They found a tiny one, and even that was too big for him. But they managed to find a they were going through all the boxes to try and find something small enough, and they managed to find this little outfit. And funny enough, it was it's like a sage green color. It was like one of those little knitted, like a little dress. And it had a little hat with it. um and the hat fitted his head perfect, because we've got the other hats they gave us, and they were so big for him. And they had this little outfit, and then they managed to find these little booties, and even the white booties were still so big for him. So we bathed him and got him ready and stuff. And we had the cuddle cot. They brought the cuddle cot in for us, and they basically said that we could stay there for as long as we needed, and like there was no rush. And I remember, and I don't even know how long I went without sleep over that weekend and that day. And I remember I put him on the bed, we had him in his blanket, and I just fell asleep. I remember waking up. Mikey woke me up to say that he was going to the shop, and I don't know how long I was asleep for, but I just remember being asleep. I had him next to me in his blanket, but then I remember thinking, oh, I need to get him back in the cuddle cot, because obviously you can only have so much time with them being out. So that's all I was doing. I was taking him out, cuddling him. We were singing to him and telling him stories, and then putting him back in the cuddle cot. and we were there for a couple of days after he'd passed away. Um, but my bereavement midwife, the consultants came to give me all the paperwork that she should have given me. She didn't come to see us until I think it was Thursday when Lochlan had to go to the chapel of rest. Um, but yeah, I've not had a very good relationship with my bereavement midwife. And one of the things that was found in the debrief was that the bereavement protocol wasn't followed. Um, so yeah, that was kind of a shame really, because at that time where you need somebody like your bereavement
Mm.
midwife,
And that's what
they're
they're supposed to be
putting
there
on
for, to
there.
provide that support for you. I don't know that Nicole's frozen or not, but I know
Yeah,
Nicole has had varying experiences with her bereavement midwives because she's got or did have bereavement midwives at different hospitals because she was transferred to different
yeah.
from different trusts. So don't know whether she's you still there, Nicole? Don't know that she can still hear us.
Oh,
We always have techie issues with Nicole. But
but
no,
yeah, it's difficult.
yeah, they're like you say, they're supposed to be there to support you, and they should yeah, they're supposed to be that one person that can you can turn to at this
Mm,
time for that support. And if that's not there, that's really critical for you and for your partner and your family.
mm.
So I'm sorry that that didn't happen or didn't work for you, or they didn't do what they were supposed to do for you.
Yeah, she was a very funny character. I basically, I had a perinatal mental health referral done when I was in hospital. And when Lochlan was born and when he passed away, she told me that I didn't need that no more because it wouldn't be right for me. So that referral was cancelled, and then she
Did she
referred
give
me
a
for
reason?
counselling.
Did she give a
She just said
reason why that wasn't going
because
to be right for
Lachlan
you?
Lachlan was born and passed away, so that they wouldn't have been the right place for me. Um, I went, right, okay, because the midwife before Lachlan was born, she was very adamant that she wanted me to have that because she did the referral. She wanted me to have that in place.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that, but she referred me to a charity called Teddy's Wish.
Okay.
Um, and I had 12 weeks of funded counselling with them, which the counsellor was lovely. She was really, really nice. And anyway, in between talking to her and she would ask about my bereavement midwife, my bereavement midwife was telling her that she was ringing me every 2 weeks and she wasn't. I think I went a couple of months without hearing from her. Um, so again, obviously, where they'd basically seen that the protocol hadn't been followed, and she still wasn't doing it. Um, she'd give me a phone call to check in every God knows when. Um, and then it was like because she thought I had counselling, then she could not contact me even. She'd contact me even less then. So my counsellor was quite concerned that she wanted me to have something to follow on from my counselling. So she wanted to speak to my bereavement midwife. So she did, and then when she come back to me, she said, "Well, she's told me she's been ringing you on these dates, like every 2 weeks," and I said she hasn't. Um, so I think my counsellor was adamant that she wanted me to have something else. So she'd contacted her and basically said, "I'm not happy with her having nothing from the counselling because she's not got other support." Um, so then they then referred me to the maternal loss and trauma team at Southmead. So I'm now having the EMDR therapy, but I haven't heard from her. I haven't heard from my bereavement midwife probably since January when the EMDR therapy first started.
Well, Nicole's back now
Um,
because you froze
yeah,
for a little bit. I
Yeah,
was just saying that your experience with bereavement midwives, because I think it's been varying depending on the bereavement midwife you're talking about, but your experience has not been overly positive in that regard, has it?
No. So my journey with bereavement midwife started very similar to yours, Cara, when Luna was stillborn. And still alive, sorry. And they came in and introduced themselves as the bereavement midwife and started giving me memory boxes and talking about as if she wasn't there. And I was like you, and I was like, hang on a minute, I'm literally sat next to my daughter in the incubator. She's still alive. Can we not do this? Luckily, my partner Richard wasn't there at the time because he would have hit the roof if they like introduced themselves like they did to him. So yeah, it didn't start off great. I mean, I'm sure all good intentions were there, but I'm like, come on, like you don't need to
There's a
introduce.
time and place.
Yeah,
And like you say, you don't need to say I'm a bereavement midwife. You just say, oh, I'm a midwife. I'm just coming to see if you need any support. You don't need to label yourself, which automatically puts you on the back foot. Like my
we hadn't even
child
had
is
a conversation that
no.
was going to be like it now. Like we hadn't even got to that point with the doctor yet, and they sent in the bereavement midwife. So yeah, so it didn't start off on a great foot. But then after Luna had died and we went home, they did. There was different ones, different bereavement midwives. The one that followed up with my care was one that I'd never even met, and hadn't met Luna, which I thought it's a bit difficult, isn't it? Because you can't get to know someone that you've never met, and I'm not going to meet her again because the hospital. We were in 3 different hospitals with Luna because we had to get transferred multiple times. It wasn't our local hospital, so I wouldn't be travelling to there, especially after we didn't come home with her. I didn't want to go back to that hospital. Yeah, and she would intermittently message or ring to see how you're doing, but didn't really give any follow-up support, didn't really point me in the right direction of there's this support network or there's this or you can do this or that. And I had 2 different bereavement midwives, one from each hospital. And then the third one then also contacted me the day after we got home without Luna, after we'd lost her. And I was just like, oh, I don't need a third bereavement midwife. Like, it's too much. Because I don't know you. You don't know what's happened. I'm going to have to relive everything and explain everything to you because all the network was different. So all the notes didn't match and she couldn't see like all the hospital notes. So it would be literally a case of me repeating what had happened, which you just don't want to do when you've just lived it. But she was actually the best one, and I kind of told her that I wasn't interested. But thankfully, when I did contact her, when I really needed some support, she was very good because my other 2 midwives, because Luna's case went to coroner's court and a year after her death, it was deemed that the hospital were at fault and were the cause of her death. The bereavement midwives obviously didn't really want to communicate with me because the hospital was up for
it's liable.
Yeah, and they were liable. So I just felt that they were like, oh well, we best not speak to Nicole anymore in case she gets us in trouble, kind of thing. So yeah, I didn't hear off them. Didn't have a good relationship with them either. But my local one that didn't know anything about me or Luna was actually very helpful. And I still deal with her now. Yeah,
that's good. It's awful though because you're at your most vulnerable as well, and like they're there to, like Jodie was saying, they're there to support us. And I remember we didn't hear from her again then, so she'd come and seen us that day before Lochlan had passed away, and then we'd seen her again on the Thursday when Lochlan was going over to the Chapel of Rest, and then we would see her obviously when we were visiting him there, because she said she had to book it. She had to book it and then let us know. And I was like, right, okay. But yeah, the consultant gave us all the paperwork she should have given us. It was just so messy. And then when it came to us having to go back to the hospital to get Lochlan's death certificate, they put us in the same room that he died in. And the bereavement midwife knew that was the room, and the consultant that was there was actually the consultant that was there when Lochlan died. And we weren't there just waiting for 5-10 minutes. We were there in that room for a good hour. Mikey wasn't happy at all. He was like, I need to get out of there. And I said, look, we just need to get this certificate and then we can go. But yeah, it was awful going back in there because it's
Triggering.
bad
It's
enough that
straight. Yeah.
very,
Hmm.
very, because like even driving near the hospital was horrible. Um,
We had that as well.
Yeah.
like going the route. Luckily, we don't have to go that way anymore. Um, but it's just little things like that, like that just make you feel so anxious and just take you straight back to that time. But yeah, she's just not been really helpful. So what, January, I think I heard from her, and we are what, end of May?
End of May. Yeah.
And it's luckily I do have like a really supportive family. Mikey's brilliant. Um, and obviously I've got like the EMDR therapy, I've got my therapist with the EMDR. Because if I didn't have that, I'd have just been basically left,
Yeah.
which is awful.
It
Yeah.
And
it it's so frustrating then when you hear that, the care just fails at whatever point you're at. And it just frightens me for other people that are going to go through this, because inevitably it is going to happen. And, you know, I think, like, it shows that it can happen at any stage. Like, my failings happened before my daughter was born, and that was why we ended up in the situation we were in. And then, Luna came along, and the failings in her care were post birth, which led to her death. And then you've gone through it
Mm.
where, you have lost your baby boy, and you need professional support.
yeah,
And that's where they failed you. Um,
there was quite a few things they didn't send off. Another one that was found in the report, they didn't send off my placenta, which I don't understand because they didn't know what had caused it.
mhm,
And one of the things they would have been able to find out from would have been my placenta. That wasn't sent off, so that was another failing.
mhm.
Um,
Because that would have
and
armed you with information as well, that if it had
mhm,
come back with something that, because I know that Nicole, you've gone through this process that they tested, like, I think it's standard when there's something that's happened during
yeah,
um a birth or post birth, that they test the placenta to find out. And I know it was important to you, Nicole, to find out
Yeah.
if there was anything wrong, that if you and your partner ever discussed a future pregnancy, that you were armed with that information.
Mm.
Which, so it's a big failing
mm,
in your care that they haven't sent that off. Did they give you a reason why?
no reason, no reason why. But apparently, it wouldn't have changed the outcome, which
How do they
I
know
don't get
that?
exactly. So I think there's a lot of stuff that I want to kind of go over again with the consultants. I think just because obviously everything so much is going on. Like at the time, you don't really think,
Yeah.
well, I need to put my mind to this.
Yeah.
Because there's loads of things that I want to do, but just because where I'm at mentally, I don't want to start something if I'm not mentally able to kind of continue with it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, but there's loads of questions. Like none of the consultants really were on the same team of what they wanted to do before Lochlan was born as well.
Yeah.
Um, Part of me wonders, should I have had the stitch? If I didn't have the stitch, would I have gone further along? There's loads of stuff, and even in the debrief, they couldn't really answer a lot. It was just, well, this has happened, nothing would have changed it. And I
Mm.
don't understand that because then
Mm.
you're saying that, but then also one of the findings is you failed to send off the placenta, which would have given key answers as to what was going on. Um,
What did they put down as the cause for your premature labour?
so so basically they've just put it down to a weakened cervix,
Yeah.
um, and that is it. They couldn't find anything else, so they've written it down as that. So I said to him, I said, well, do I need to go to a gynecologist? Do I need to go to a certain department to have that looked into? Oh, no, no, no. So if you get pregnant again, then you will be seen by 3 different teams and you will need to be seen from about 14 weeks, like if not earlier, just to get you in. And I was like, right, okay. There wasn't really any real like answers properly for you to really know what was going on. So I'm still kind of looking into different things with the like a cervical weakness, because from what they were saying, they don't really come across that very often without like an infection causing the premature labor and things like that. So I don't really think they knew exactly what to do either. But there was 3 different consultants that all wanted to do different stuff, which didn't make things easier. So yeah, it was just basically put down to a weakened cervix, and that was it. So kind of, yeah, if it, you just have to, they said for any other pregnancies they'd obviously be monitoring me regularly and stuff, and they probably want to get a suture in sooner as well. Yeah, there was just so much, and you don't really think about a lot of things until you're kind of further down the line, and you're still getting your head over stuff.
I think it's when you start searching for answers is when those questions arise, and you're like, well, why wasn't that done? And if that was done, would that have changed the outcome? And if we would have said this or gone with that decision, I think we've spoken about it in a lot of interviews, haven't we, Nicole, about that guilt of should I have done this? And if I had done something differently, would it have affected the outcome? And it's about my choices. And again, going back to being fully informed, that's very difficult when you're not armed with all of the information that you may need to make those informed decisions. One thing you said earlier, I was going to question it at the time, but I thought I'll hold on to it, is when you just said about the consultants offering sort of 3 different solutions or 3 different courses of action before Lochlan was born. You said one consultant suggested a C-section, which I was quite surprised at, because what's the reasoning behind that? Isn't that more of a traumatic delivery potentially, which could cause further damage on a preemie baby, which obviously I know a little bit about because of Nicole and Luna, the minimal handling and things, but is that a safer route than a vaginal birth?
The consultant that delivered Lochlan was very against the C-section. For
Okay.
the point was, because of how dilated I was, he would have meant pulling him back up, and that
To
could have
get him
caused
out.
injury. Yeah, that would have basically been more traumatic for me, for him, and could have caused a lot of injuries to him as well. The consultant that wanted to do the C-section was very old-fashioned, very old-fashioned. And then obviously the other one wanted me to just wait it out. And then the suture, the rescue stitch was basically the other option. But yeah, I don't think I would have gone with the C-section.
No. It just, like, say, I'm not medically trained, and that just seems like the wrong thing to do. Like, just from a being so traumatic that,
Yeah,
it wouldn't have given Lochlan the best chance either. Because
no.
that's quite traumatic surgery for both you and him.
Was it because that you were becoming quite unwell that she was questioning that you might need a C-section because of?
No, because at this point I was fine. There was no signs of infection. My obs were fine. Um, they because it wasn't until the day that Lochlan was born, that early hours that morning, that I became unwell, and then they obviously found out that the stitch had come away. But at the point where we've been given all these options, I was fine.
Fine. Yeah, I only said because they mentioned C-section in my case, because I developed sepsis because my waters had broke. So they said that you're becoming so unwell that we can't risk you losing your life as well as your baby. And if it got to that point, we would take the choice off you and we would give you an emergency C-section to save your life. But yeah, they said it was like extremely high risk because the baby's so premature at that gestation. It's harder to, you'd think it'd be easier to remove a smaller baby, but it's harder to remove a small baby because of how fragile they are. And rather than doing like your traditional C-section across, they'd have to do an across and then an internal down. And then to make like obviously a bigger opening to gently remove the baby. And they said like that would cause a lot of problems for me if I ever then went on to have a future pregnancy, because
and that's how they cut me, Nicole.
Yeah.
To
So
get Bonnie out.
that was just like, no, I was like, no thanks.
Because that's something else they said as well. They did say if I went with the C-section, then any other pregnancies would have to be a C-section.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that is such major surgery on its own. It's just a lot. I just don't think, none of them really. They kept saying they were having all these like meetings about my case and about Lochlan, but I don't get what they would be talking about, because none of them were really on the same page.
Yeah, they all disagreed with each other, didn't they, by the sounds of it?
It sounds like they were just pushing their own agendas, especially the lady or the chap who was saying about the C-section, when that, yes, like you say, Nicole, you can see it in your perspective where they said if that's the worst case scenario, that's the last resort, but they were just giving this to you as another option and not as a worst case scenario option. That, if you're not well enough to actually give birth to your child, or you're not conscious, or your health deteriorates, you can understand the mentality behind it, but not as would you like to do it this way kind of option. It seems quite strange.
I think with all your advice and your different scenarios you were given, Cara, that you've made the best informed decision at the time that you could for yourself in Lochlan. And I've been in the same place as you, where you doubt everything that you did and you question every decision that you made, but you will learn with your therapy and everything, and as your grief process moves on, that you made the best decision for you and your baby. And no one will take that away from you. Like, I know it's really hard to get your head around when everything's so raw and you're trying to deal with all the trauma and the emotions that come along with it, but you will come to live with, you made the best decision. And I absolutely think you made the best decision for you and Lochlan. And I think if I was in your situation, even though our stories are very similar, obviously they're still very different, I think I would have gone with what you did as well. And that was, you were given that informed decision that it's the best chance to prolong your pregnancy. And that's what you did for your little boy.
Yeah, I think the extra time that it given us anyway, I think definitely made a difference. An extra week, over a week, than when we've got a lot further than what we thought we were when we first went into hospital. And that's just one thing that we can always be thankful for, is that what they thought was going to happen on that day didn't happen. And he was here safe. We got to meet him, we got time with him. Although it wasn't very long, we still made as many memories as we could within that time.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I don't know, things can happen in so many different ways, and I don't know. It's mad to think, because he wasn't due until the 1st of July, and he came on the 3rd of March. So we still had like all these months to do stuff and plan things and things like that. And it was just, you just chucked into, I don't even know how to explain it really. It's just madness, because every day you're given so many different options, and people are giving their opinions on it. And I think sometimes they forget that the baby that they're talking about is an actual human, is a little person. And I think they need to remember that with everything that's going on at the moment, because the maternity services is just so up in the air, and there's so many mistakes being made. And they're not listening to mums properly when they're raising concerns, and it's just awful. It's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people will make comments because we're raising awareness for what's happened to us and our babies, in the hope that it gives other people kind of little things to look out for, or even just the reassurance that it's okay if you are concerned. Like, please don't be scared about making sure you're getting your point across to the midwives and the doctors that you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with.
Yeah,
Because I know
100%.
you get comments of people say we're scaremongering, and we're not. We probably thought at one point when we would see videos like this, oh, that's awful to happen to somebody, not
Yeah.
realizing that we would be in this position.
Mm-hmm.
And we just want people to be aware of our stories and kind of what's happened. We're not doing it to scare anyone.
No.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
It's just one of those things. I don't know what I could have looked out for to have probably kind of gone into hospital any sooner with Lochlan, because I didn't have any feelings other than that little bleed that morning. There was nothing else to kind
Mm.
of prompt me to go in and get checked out.
And I
Um,
think like Nicole says, you will learn as you get further on through your grief process, and you'll learn to accept the fact that you did everything
mm,
that you should have done. You there was nothing that you didn't do. There was, it's not like you had a symptom that you didn't act on. And we've said time and time again, if anyone has got any even slight concern, just go and get checked out.
mm,
Just just go. That is what the maternity care is there for, is that, if worried about movement or blood or pain, anything, just please go. I think one of the biggest things I learned in my experience is that although it's extremely difficult to do this, is that you need to advocate for yourself,
mm,
or get your partner to advocate for you. And we were so, both myself and my partner were so blinded by the fact that we're in the right place and these are medical professionals. You don't question it, and you
mm,
think, you know what, question it. If you
Yeah.
need to question it, you say something. And there was time, like my husband is very much that, oh, I should have done this and I should have said that and I should have intervened. And I'm thinking, how do you know? Because one, they weren't giving us all the information, so we couldn't make that informed choice. But also, we had no knowledge of having children before or going through labour, or, we were completely vulnerable. And that's how you are, whether it's your first child or your third child, you're completely vulnerable in that situation, and you give yourself over to the medical professionals because you think that they know best. But ultimately, when you can feel something that's not right, you need to advocate and you need to speak up. And that's one regret I have. And I think, oh God, if I would have said something sooner, if I would have spoken up and said, look, this isn't right, something needs to do and change, and not leave it so long, would have things that had happened to my daughter still have happened if I would have said something. And it's the same. I think everyone goes through the what ifs. What if I would have done this? What if I'd have done that? But
mm,
it's this podcast is about therapy. It's about us and the people that we talk to. In the first instance, it's giving you someone to talk to. It's giving you a platform to talk about your beautiful babies, and but also it's about education as well. And people listening to it, that whether it's for their own experience or whether they're dealing with somebody who, or interacting with somebody that has gone through that loss, as well. So we are definitely not doing it to scare people.
mm,
It is all about awareness.
And I think the people that think that we're there to scaremonger, like you say, they're blissfully unaware of the world that we have been forced upon.
Yeah.
exactly. They've not had to deal with anything
Yeah,
like what we've all been
no,
doing.
and I would never wish what we've gone through on anybody. So they
Mm.
should be thankful that they don't understand our world and like
Mm,
what we're talking about and the
Mm.
feelings and emotion that we share, they should be grateful that they don't understand that, because it's the most difficult thing that anybody would ever go through. Like, death in any situation is awful, but losing a child, no matter what gestation, losing a child or a baby or an infant, it's not meant to be that way. And as humans, we're not designed to cope with that type of grief, because it's not the natural cycle of life.
No, it's not the natural order of things, is it?
I just think like, oh yeah, I'm not, in a way I'm glad, but I'm glad that they're blissfully unaware, because I wouldn't wish this upon anyone. So for those people that, just let them pass by, because
it's
good for you that you don't know our world. And and I just think, it's not for them. It's for the people that have experienced similar things to us and have gone through their birth and baby loss.
And I think, the previous interview we did, Cara, with a lady over in Ireland, she said to us, which touched us quite a lot, didn't it, Nicole, that, that it's the first time after listening to our podcast that she's felt connected to somebody. It's obviously with Nicole, I think especially with her story with Luna, that that she felt that she wasn't alone. And that's the biggest thing for us, is that we just want people to feel less alone. And it's horrible that there is people out there like you, like Nicole, like yourself, that have gone through the loss of a child, but we want to give you that support if we can. And that's why we're here. And like Nicole said, I've not experienced it myself. My story is a little bit different, but it's not something you'd wish on your worst enemy.
No, it's horrible. And I think the one thing that kind of got me the most was when we were planning Lochlan's funeral, and because he was obviously so little, they were basically saying, oh well, the only coffin that we can basically do is a little white one. And I was like, oh well, I wanted him to have color, and we basically said that we were going to put teddies in with it, and so we were able to get a bigger one, so he was able to have a little blue coffin. But when it was, because Mikey carried him into the church for the service, and then he lowered him down, and there shouldn't be coffins made that small.
No.
And
absolutely,
it's just awful. Where Lochlan is, they've got like he's buried, well, he's not far from where we are, he's only about 10 minutes away from us, and they've got like a baby section in the Remembrance Park, and it is really, really lovely there. But there has been, so we buried Lochlan last April, and I think by Christmas there was 5 new graves, and one of those was twins. And you kind of don't realize how common like baby loss and child loss is. I was completely naive to it all. And I think where Lochlan is, we know four people that have their babies there, and that's just, it's
shocking.
Awful.
Many.
Yeah, it's a shocking statistic, really. And it's like you've got the people that don't know, it's like they're on another planet. And the people that do know are living on a completely different planet. It's like two separate worlds from from everything that you've said, Nicole, and like the ladies that we've interviewed and stuff. It is like, say, people just are completely naive to it until you're in it.
It's awful. But I think I come on TikTok after Lochlan passed away because I wanted to be able to share things away from my Facebook, because I didn't want to be always ramming it down like people's faces and stuff. So I thought, oh, I'll just do a TikTok, and then I can just share. I can like document my grief journey and share stuff and things like that. But I have come across some amazing ladies just from TikTok. And I think I've found that I've got more support from strangers than my own friends.
Yeah.
Which I think, like you were saying earlier on, it is very, very lonely. But yeah, I didn't expect to come across and meet so many lovely people that are in. Obviously, everyone's story is different, but we all kind of have the same feelings. We kind of all know what that person's going through. Yeah, and it's kind of like bittersweet. Everyone says it's the kind of the community that nobody wants to join, but I've met some lovely people in this community, and they've been so supportive, and people that you don't know, and that'll just put a comment, and then they're becoming people that you talk to kind of like every day, which has been really nice because it is somebody else that you can talk to that understands.
Yeah.
And I think it's been really helpful, and having places like this, having a safe place like this to be able to come on and tell our story, it's been nice, because I think if I talk to my family about it, I get upset really easily. But I think when you're telling a stranger about it, you're able to tell them because they're disconnected from it, like from your personal story. And you get moments like where I've got upset and stuff, but you kind of I can kind of bring myself out of that quite quickly. Whereas if I was to talk to my family and stuff, they get upset, and then I have a problem where I'm a real empath.
Yeah.
So I don't like the thought of other people being upset. So I think if I talk to them about it, they're going to get upset, and that's not what I want. So I think this is really nice because we are able to talk freely. And I know you will get upset hearing other stories, because like with Nicole's, there's similarities.
Yeah.
But you're going to feel upset for any mum, any dad that's had to bury their baby or lose their child and stuff, and it's awful. And I think places like this and spaces like this are needed, because there isn't enough in the community. There isn't enough aftercare, I think, for us.
Yeah,
so we're building our own aftercare, and like Nicole's made a lot of steps to work on her own aftercare, if you like, aren't you? Because you're now a befriender. Is that
I was going to say
that's the word?
Befriender. Yeah, I don't know if you have heard of Sans Charity.
Yeah, we have. They've got Sans down here. We went to they did a Christmas service at Christmas that we went to, which was quite nice.
They do a monthly face-to-face meeting in your area for bereaved parents.
They do, but it's all the way the other side of Bristol, so it's really hard to get to. They were doing, I think they were doing it over Zoom or Teams, but then they've put it back into face-to-face meetings. But yeah, it's really difficult because it's like in the evening time as well. So quite hard to get to.
I found that really helpful after I lost Luna, and I've been going to the monthly meetings like since 6 months after her death, and I've just done all the training. Just on this episode before yours, we were just talking about it. I've done all the training to like lead the groups because I found it so helpful. I thought if I can give that back to another family, another bereaved parent, and get the help and comfort and support that I felt from the group, then it would mean the world. So I've just done all the training to be a Sans befriender.
Oh, it's amazing.
Now, and that's like continuing my healing journey and my grief journey, because being able to help others. I'm like you, I hate people being upset. So I talk to my partner, but minimally, about everything that we've been through. But like talking to family and stuff, I find it really difficult because I don't like them getting upset, because then I get upset.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found talking to other people like you saying, like me and Jodie, like we've been friends for way too long.
All right, cheers.
But we unfortunately went through NICU within a month, weeks of each other.
About 6 weeks between Bonnie being born and then Luna being born, wasn't it?
So we'd both been through, although we had completely different stories and different outcomes, we'd both been that awful experience of being a NICU parent. So me and Jodie have confided in each other and used each other as therapy, which is how we come to do this podcast.
That's really nice.
We're both talkers, and I love, like you, I love talking about Luna, and I will continue to say her name until I'm blue in the face, because she deserves to be spoken about and deserves to be remembered. So I'll just talk about it until the cows come home. That's why we do this, and give you the platform to talk about your babies as well, and feel heard and feel comforted that we do. Because I remember feeling like, oh, why am I feeling like this? Like, why am I having these thoughts? Why am I blaming myself and all these different things? But then when you hear someone else say, actually, that's normal, I felt like that, it just makes you feel so less alone.
And a little less insane or crazy.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, I've gone through the crazy period, but that's what grief does to you. But I just, someone said to me that you will always grieve because you will always love, and that's how I see it now. Like, I'm not embarrassed to say that I'm going to continue to grieve Luna for the rest of my life, because that's a lifetime of love that I have for her, that she should be having here with us. So it's just it's a different form of love, and that's how I see it and remember it, and think she's not here for me to love and to do all these memories that we should be doing and milestones that we should be doing, but we have those precious memories of those 8 days, 9 days, and all those perfect little moments that you shared, and you'll have them for the rest of your life. And I just see it's so important to continue to remember and to share those with everybody else, because that little baby deserves to be remembered for who and what they were.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, Nicole, you couldn't have put it like the end of the episode any better.
I know.
That was such a poetic end.
Yeah, this is what we do it for, and to hear like yourself and all the other ladies. It's always ladies that we've interviewed, so we can say that. But all the other ladies that we've interviewed, it's so sad and so upsetting. Like, especially with you, Cara, there's so many moments in your story where I could literally close my eyes and it's like me talking, because our stories are very, very similar. And it'd be lovely to speak to you on the outside of this podcast and hear more about Lochlan and your experience. There's so many similarities. We've shared so much with our babies. That just allowing these ladies and yourself to just share and talk and feel comfortable enough to talk to us about your experience. It just means the world to, I'm sure I can speak for you, Jodie, but it just means the world to us that you're listening or finding the space that you then can come and share your story, and how you started talking to us before we started the podcast, Cara. I know what a big step this is for you. So well done for pushing yourself.
Thank you.
Remembering your story, how you have.
Yeah, it's hard, because I didn't want to come on, and then I didn't want to just be an absolute emotional wreck. So you try and like get through it, but there's just key points that they just, no matter how or who you're talking to, you can't, it will just always like just get you and take you back there.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But you can hear and feel the love that you have for Lochlan in the storytelling that you've just done and told him about him. Like,
he's my little, the thing is, we didn't get to see it. He didn't see, his eyes weren't open.
No.
So we don't know if, because Mikey's got like hazel eyes and I've got like blue. So I always had the idea that he'd have green, like greeny eyes. So there's just like little things like that, and then you try to kind of imagine them. And I don't know if you guys did it. There was a thing where everyone was doing the chat GPT and like making
older.
well, I didn't do I didn't do that one. I did,
I was going to say that
you
was
could
Emma.
make them. I was going to do it, but I thought, oh no, I can't.
No.
You make them into like illustrations and like little
Oh,
cartoons,
okay.
and it
Yeah.
would like, so like there's pictures that I've got of Lochlan where he's got like his tubes and stuff and the mask and the marks, but it would take them off and it would make this like cute little chunky little baby in like a cartoon, and it was lovely.
Oh,
And it
that's
was just stuff that I've got saved in. It's just it's just like this new little kind of memory to keep.
yeah.
Yeah, so I know a few of us were doing that for a while, but yeah, I had to stop because I was running out of things that I could do. But thank you for having me on.
Very welcome.
Yeah, it's been lovely to be able to talk about Lochlan, and it's been nice to hear your stories as well. And yeah,
No, thank you for,
it's been
you know,
lovely.
reaching out for one, because that's quite difficult, reaching out to people that you don't know and, putting yourself out there. And this all will be in the public forum, and and all we've ever had is love and positive thoughts, and for everyone that's listened or taken part. So no, we really, like you say, it touches us every time somebody reaches out and wants to share their story. So no, we really, really appreciate your time and coming on.
No, thank you. It's been nice.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, it's something different to do on an evening. But no,
Most
it's
definitely.
been nice, and it's nice to be able to get his story out there, because I think everyone seems to think that stories are so this, if they've not been through it, everyone will think, oh, that's just the same kind of thing, but it's really not. So it's nice to hear, and nice to be able to hear like this was their little like story that they've had and they've been through.
And I think you can think of it in a way where, like, you get to share Lochlan now with, whoever listens, or,
I
whoever follows
know.
you on TikTok, and he will touch so many more people, with you talking about him, and people will know who he is, and, he had a place in this world, and you're sharing his story, and you're doing him proud, so you should be proud of
Thank
yourself
you.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
That's
you.
my brave mummy talking about me.
Yes,
I
exactly.
hope so. I think it's Bonnie and Luna. Be proud of you too as well, because I think what you're doing is just amazing. Um,
Thank you.
and you're just giving people just an opportunity to be able to, because not a lot of people are able to talk
No.
about their babies, and I think this is a nice place for them, and like you said, for their names to be heard, and for new people, strangers, to get to know them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so invaluable. It's just, yeah, it's been lovely.
Oh, thank you so much, Cara. But
All right.
we've probably kept you long enough, and you'll
I
probably
know,
want
it's
to go
gone
to
on.
bed now.
Just realised what the time was. But yeah, sorry, I'm like you. Like I think Nicole said about chatting. Like once I start, there's so much you can say,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
trying to just fit it all into such a short
hmm
space.
Yeah.
But no,
We do it. We always say that it's not right for us to edit these podcast episodes down, because taking any part of your story away or editing that out is just a disservice to you, and it's a
mm,
disservice to Lochlan as well. So what we tend to do is just split them in two parts. So it's like
yeah,
Nicole, at the beginning of this podcast, we did tell our stories. I was in episode 1 and 2, and Nicole was in episode 3 and 4. But we generally split them over in two parts. So
mm.
I think this will be episode 16 and 17 with your story. Yeah, we don't edit anything out of it, other unless Nicole has a techie problem,
Yeah.
Mm.
which is usually the case, or she says
Yeah.
something she should.
Yeah, I normally swear or drop a name bomb or something. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
But
no, that's fine.
no, but we need to keep in touch. But thank you so much for joining
Yeah, no,
us.
I will. No, that's okay. No, thank you for having me.
Bye,
It's
Thank
been lovely
you. Nice
Cara.
to
talking to
meet you,
you
Cara.
both. And
Take
you,
Bye.
take care.
Bye.
care.
Bye.